Captain Sarah Chen stared out the window of the massive starship and watched alien vessels drift past like metal fish in an ocean of stars. 50 years had passed since humans joined the Galactic Council. 50 years since the Vancouver incident changed everything. 50 years since humanity was banned from ever fighting again. Sarah touched the badge on her uniform. It marked her as a liaison officer, which was a fancy title for someone who pushed papers and attended meetings. She was a soldier without a war, a warrior without a battlefield. The Council made sure of that. Around her, aliens of every shape and size worked at their stations. Some had 4 arms. Others floated in tanks of liquid. A few looked almost human, except for the wrong number of eyes, or the strange color of their skin. They all belonged to the Galactic Elite, the collection of 847 species that ruled this part of space. Sarah walked through the corridors of the Harmonious Destiny, the Council's flagship. The ship was beautiful in the way government buildings were beautiful. Clean, organized, and completely soulless. Everything had a purpose. Nothing was wasted. It reminded Sarah of a museum more than a warship. She passed a group of Strategos warriors training in a combat simulator. The Strategos were the elite soldiers of the Council, trained from birth to fight with honor and precision. Sarah stopped to watch through the observation window. The warriors moved in perfect formation, following ancient patterns of attack and defense. Every move was calculated. Every strike was precise. They fought like they were performing a dance. Sarah shook her head. 50 years ago, humans had fought the Council and won, even though they had fewer ships and older weapons. The Council never understood how. They thought it was luck. They thought it was desperation. They never realized it was because humans fought to win, not to look good doing it. A soft chime interrupted her thoughts. Sarah touched the communication device in her ear. Chen here. Captain, please report to the Council chamber. There's an emergency session. The voice belonged to Ambassador Trelvox, one of the few Council members who treated humans with respect. Sarah hurried through the ship. Emergency sessions were rare. The Council liked to plan everything months in advance. Emergency meant something had gone very wrong. The Council chamber was chaos when she arrived. Hundreds of aliens argued in dozens of languages. The translation software in Sarah's ear struggled to keep up. She found Trelvox near the back of the room. What happened? Sarah asked. Trelvox's skin changed from blue to dark purple, which Sarah had learned meant worry. The Void Collective, he said. They've attacked 3 of our colony worlds in the Outer Rim. Sarah felt her stomach tighten. She'd heard rumors about the Void Collective. They were a hive-mind species that consumed everything in their path. Planets, ships, people. Everything became part of their collective consciousness. They left nothing but empty space behind. How bad? Sarah asked. Gone, Trelvox said quietly. All 3 worlds, 7 billion souls. We received their distress calls, but by the time our ships arrived, there was nothing left. Not even debris. The Council chamber slowly fell silent as the High Chancellor began to speak. The High Chancellor was an ancient being called a Wise One, with a body like a tree and a voice like wind through leaves. The threat is real, the High Chancellor said. The Void Collective has broken through our outer defenses. They do not negotiate. They do not stop. They only consume. We must prepare for war. Sarah felt a strange sensation in her chest. After 50 years of peace, after 50 years of being told humans were too dangerous to fight, the Council was finally facing a real enemy. The Strategos commander stood up. He was a massive being with 6 arms and armor that looked like it was carved from a single piece of metal. We will meet them in honorable combat, he declared. We will follow the doctrine of civilized war. We will show them that the Council does not fear any enemy. Sarah almost laughed. Almost. The doctrine of civilized war was a set of rules that made warfare safe and predictable. No surprise attacks. No targeting civilians. No fighting during certain times. It was warfare with training wheels. "Commander," Sarah said, speaking up before she could stop herself, "have you considered that the Void Collective might not follow your rules?" Every alien in the chamber turned to look at her. Sarah felt her face grow hot. Humans weren't supposed to speak during council sessions unless asked. The Strategos commander looked at her with something like pity. "Human, your people were banned from combat because you do not understand honor. You fight like animals. The Void Collective will learn to respect the rules of war, or they will be destroyed." Sarah bit her tongue. She wanted to explain that the Void Collective wouldn't care about honor, that they wouldn't stop to let you retreat, that they wouldn't avoid civilian targets. But she knew it was pointless. The Council had spent 10,000 years fighting wars like gentlemen. They couldn't imagine any other way. The meeting continued for hours. Plans were made. Fleets were assembled. The Council prepared for war the only way they knew how, with ceremony, with honor, with rules. When the session finally ended, Sarah walked back to her quarters alone. She passed a memorial wall that listed the human lives lost during the Vancouver incident. 3,000 names. The Council thought that was a horrifying number. They'd surrendered rather than see more death. Sarah wondered what they would think when they saw what real war looked like. When they discovered that the Void Collective didn't care about their rules. When they learned that sometimes survival meant doing terrible things. She entered her quarters and sealed the door. On her desk was an old photograph from Earth. Her grandfather in military uniform, standing in front of a tank. He'd fought in wars before humanity reached the stars. He'd told her once that war wasn't about honor. It was about coming home. Sarah looked at the photograph for a long time. Then she pulled up the classified files she'd been collecting for years. Files about the Vancouver incident. Files about how humans really fought. Files that the Council had sealed and tried to forget. She had a feeling they were going to need that information very soon. The galaxy was about to remember why humans were banned from combat. And it wasn't because humans were weak. It was because they were too good at winning. The Council fleet assembled in the Meridian system, exactly as planned. Sarah watched from the observation deck as hundreds of warships moved into perfect formation. Each vessel was a work of art, with elegant curves and gleaming metal. They looked more like sculptures than weapons. The Strategos commander stood on the bridge, surrounded by his officers. They wore ceremonial armor and carried weapons that had been passed down through generations. Everything about them screamed tradition and honor. "Send the challenge to the Void Collective," the commander ordered. "Let them know we offer them honorable combat at dawn." Sarah closed her eyes. They were sending a formal challenge to a hive mind that ate planets. This was going to be a disaster. The battle began exactly at dawn, measured in Galactic Standard Time. The Council fleet moved forward in perfect lines. The Void Collective ships appeared like a swarm of insects, all black metal and strange angles. They didn't move in formation. They moved like a single creature with 1,000 arms. The first exchange followed the traditional rules. The Council ships fired warning shots. They gave the enemy time to respond. They followed 10,000 years of military protocol. The Void Collective didn't fire warning shots. They opened fire with everything they had. Sarah watched in horror as Council ships exploded. The Void Collective targeted life support systems, something that was forbidden under the doctrine of civilized war. They didn't wait for formal retreats. They didn't allow time for evacuation. They just killed. Within an hour, 40% of the Council fleet was destroyed. The Strategos commander finally ordered a retreat, following proper procedure. He signaled the enemy. He waited for acknowledgement. The Void Collective responded by destroying 3 more ships during the retreat. Sarah found Trelvox in the medical bay. He was helping treat the wounded, his skin a deep gray with shock. "They didn't follow any rules," he said quietly. "How can they fight like that? Without honor? Without mercy?" Sarah wanted to scream. Instead, she spoke calmly. "Because they're trying to win, not trying to look honorable while fighting." That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She kept seeing the Council ships exploding. She kept hearing the screams over the communication channels. The Council had no idea what real war looked like. She pulled up her classified files again. Files from the Vancouver incident. Files that explained why humanity was really banned. The truth was simple. Humans scared the Council. Not because humans were strong, but because humans understood something the Council didn't. War wasn't a game. War wasn't about honor. War was about survival. Sarah read the report from the First Contact War. Humans had only 47 ships against the Council's 300. The Council expected an easy victory. They expected humans to surrender quickly, like civilized beings. Instead, humans fought dirty. They used kamikaze drones filled with nuclear weapons. They sent false distress signals to lure Council ships into traps. They hacked enemy communications and spread lies and confusion. They didn't wear uniforms in ground combat. They hid among civilians. They used booby traps and ambushes. The Council kept winning battles, but they couldn't win the war. Every time they thought they defeated humanity, humans would pop up somewhere else with a new horrible tactic. The final moment came when humans threatened to weaponize a black hole. They said if the Council didn't leave Earth alone, they would destroy the entire system and take the Council fleet with them. The Council called it madness. Humans called it mutually assured destruction. The Council surrendered. They'd never surrendered before. Not in 10,000 years of war. Then they banned humans from ever fighting again. They told the galaxy it was because humans were too unstable, too emotional, too unpredictable. But Sarah knew the truth. They banned humans because they were terrified. Over the next 2 weeks, the Council tried to fight the Void Collective 6 more times. They lost every single battle. The enemy didn't care about rules. They didn't care about honor. They just kept coming. 6 star systems fell. Billions died. Sarah requested a meeting with the War Council. She was denied. Humans weren't allowed to advise on military matters. She tried going through Trelvox. He got her into a junior officers' meeting. She explained basic human tactics. The officers looked at her like she was describing torture. "You want us to lie to the enemy?" one officer asked, disgusted. "I want you to survive," Sarah said. "We would rather die with honor than live with shame," the officer replied. Sarah wanted to flip the table. Instead, she thanked them for their time and left. Late one night, Trelvox came to her quarters. He looked around nervously before speaking. "Some of us have been talking," he said quietly. "Younger officers, scientists, people who don't want to die following ancient rules. We want to know what humans would do." Sarah studied him carefully. "If the Council finds out you're asking me this, you'll be charged with treason. If we don't do something different, we'll all be dead anyway," Trelvox said. "Please, help us." Sarah thought about the rules, about her oath to respect the Council's laws, about the Combat Exclusion Treaty that banned humans from warfare. Then she thought about the billions who had died, about the billions more who would die if nothing changed. "All right," she said, "but first I need to explain something. Human warfare isn't about being evil. It's about being honest. The Council fights like war is a sport. Humans fight like war is war." She pulled up a human military manual on her screen. "This is called asymmetric warfare. It means when the enemy is stronger, you don't fight them head-on. You hit them where they're weak. You make them waste resources. You make them scared to advance." Trelvox leaned closer. "Show me everything." Over the next few days, Sarah secretly trained a small group of council officers. She taught them about guerrilla tactics, about psychological warfare, about using the enemy's strengths against them. The Void Collective is a hive mind, Sarah explained. That means they're all connected. If we can hack that connection, we can hurt all of them at once. But hacking enemy systems during combat is forbidden, one officer protested. So is eating planets, Sarah replied. Are you going to let them kill everyone because you're worried about breaking rules? The officers looked at each other. Slowly they began to understand. Then the council leadership discovered what they were doing. The Strategos commander himself came to shut down the program. He stood in front of Sarah, his 6 arms crossed in judgment. You are teaching our officers to fight without honor, he said. This ends now. Honor won't matter if you're all dead, Sarah said. The commander raised one arm to strike her. Then an alarm blared throughout the ship. The Void Collective had broken through the outer defenses. They were heading for the core worlds. They were heading for the Council's home planet of primacy. The commander turned and ran toward the bridge. Sarah followed. The time for rules was over. The time for survival had begun. The evacuation sirens wailed across primacy. The Council's capital world, home to 50 billion souls, was preparing for the unthinkable. The Void Collective was 3 days away. Sarah stood in the emergency council session and watched the leaders argue. They'd been arguing for 6 hours. Outside, people were panicking. Inside, politicians were debating procedure. We must maintain order, the High Chancellor said. We cannot abandon 10,000 years of tradition because of one threat. One threat? Ambassador Trelvox stood up, his skin flashing angry red. They've consumed 9 systems. 40 billion people are dead. When will you admit that our way isn't working? The Strategos commander slammed his fist on the table. We will not become barbarians. We will not fight like humans. The room fell silent. Everyone looked at Sarah. She stood up slowly. You keep saying that, like it's an insult. Like fighting to survive is something to be ashamed of. You fight without honor, the commander said. You lie. You cheat. You target the innocent. Sarah felt 50 years of frustration boiling up inside her. Let me tell you about the Vancouver incident. Let me tell you what really happened. She pulled up the classified files on the main screen. Files the council had tried to bury. Files that showed the truth. 50 years ago, you came to Earth with 300 ships, Sarah said. You told us to surrender or die. You thought it would be easy. You thought we would follow your rules. The screen showed images of the battle. Earth's 47 ships against the Council's armada. We knew we couldn't beat you in a fair fight, Sarah continued. So we didn't fight fair. We used drones filled with nuclear bombs. We pretended to surrender, and then attacked when you lowered your shields. We hacked your communications and made your ships fire on each other. Some of the council members looked away in disgust. We turned asteroids into weapons, Sarah said. We put mines in debris fields. We made you paranoid. We made you afraid to advance. We made every step forward cost you ships and lives. She showed them the footage of human ground forces. Soldiers who didn't wear uniforms, who hid in buildings and struck from shadows, who used improvised explosives and traps. You won every major battle, Sarah said, but you were losing the war. Because we weren't trying to win battles. We were trying to make you quit. The final image showed the black hole weapon, a massive device that could tear apart an entire solar system. And when you still didn't quit, we built this, Sarah said. We told you that if you didn't leave us alone, we would destroy Earth and take your entire fleet with us. We called it mutually assured destruction. The High Chancellor spoke quietly. You would have killed your own planet? Maybe, Sarah said. Maybe not. But you believed we would. That's what mattered. You surrendered because you realized something. Humans don't fight to win. Humans fight until one side stops existing. She turned off the screen. You banned us from combat because we scared you. Because we showed you what war really looks like when you're fighting for survival. Not for honor, not for glory, for survival. The room was silent. The Void Collective doesn't care about your honor, Sarah said. They don't care about your rules. They just want to eat you. And unless you start fighting like you want to live, they're going to win. The Strategos commander stood up. Never. I would rather die than become like you. Then you'll die, Sarah said simply, and everyone else will die with you. When you're ready to survive, come find me. Behind her, the council erupted in argument again. But this time, it was different. This time, younger voices were shouting. This time, people were questioning the old ways. Sarah spent the next day preparing. She gathered the officers she'd trained in secret. 23 brave souls from different species, all willing to try human tactics. They're going to stop us, one officer said nervously. Maybe, Sarah replied, but let's make our first strike count. That night, the small team infiltrated the council military headquarters. They accessed the defense plans for primacy. Sarah showed them how to set up ambushes, how to create kill zones, how to make the enemy pay for every meter of ground. This is brilliant, Trelvox said, studying the plans, and absolutely forbidden by every law we have. Good thing we're about to die then. Dead people don't care about laws. They worked through the night, planning humanity's kind of defense. Traps, ambushes, false retreats, everything the council found dishonorable. At dawn, the High Chancellor herself came to Sarah's quarters. The ancient being looked tired. The council has voted, the High Chancellor said. Sarah braced herself. She was probably about to be arrested. We have voted to suspend the Combat Exclusion Treaty, the High Chancellor continued, temporarily, until this crisis is over. Sarah felt her heart race. You're letting humans fight? Not just fight, the High Chancellor said. We're asking you to lead. The Void Collective will reach primacy in 36 hours. Show us how to survive. Sarah nodded slowly. There's something you need to understand first. Human warfare is ugly. We're going to do things that will make you hate us. We're going to sacrifice people to save more people. We're going to lie and cheat and fight dirty. Can you live with that? The High Chancellor was quiet for a long time. Can we die without it? No, Sarah said honestly. Then we have no choice, the High Chancellor replied. Do what you must. We will judge you later, if we survive. Sarah opened a communication channel to Earth. It was the first time in 50 years that humans had been asked for military help. This is Captain Sarah Chen, she said. The Council is requesting assistance. The Void Collective is an existential threat. We need everything. The response came back immediately. This is Admiral Martinez of the Human Defense Force. Tell the Council to get out of our way. Cavalry's coming. Sarah turned to the High Chancellor. You're about to see what humans are really like in war. I hope you're ready. The High Chancellor asked, Are we making a mistake? Sarah thought about all the people who had died following the Council's rules. She thought about all the people who would die if they kept following them. Maybe, Sarah said, but it's the right mistake to make. The human fleet began arriving 6 hours later. The ships weren't beautiful like Council vessels. They were ugly, functional, covered in weapons and armor. They looked like what they were, machines built for killing. The galaxy was about to remember why humans were banned, and this time they were going to be grateful for it. The human fleet looked wrong to Council eyes. The ships were dark gray and black, covered in sharp angles and weapons that didn't try to look elegant. They moved in loose formations that seemed random, but somehow worked. Everything about them screamed one message: we're here to kill, not to impress. Admiral Martinez appeared on the main screen. He was an older man, with gray hair and scars on his face. He didn't wear ceremonial armor. He wore a simple uniform, with coffee stains on it. "Council forces will follow human command until this is over," Martinez said without preamble. "Anyone who can't follow orders can leave now." The Strategos commander bristled. "We do not take orders from—" "Then leave," Martinez interrupted. "The Void Collective will be here in 12 hours. I don't have time for ego. Stay and follow orders, or go and die honorably somewhere else. Your choice." The commander's face turned purple with rage. They all stayed. Sarah watched as Martinez took over the defense of primacy. He didn't ask permission. He didn't follow protocol. He just started giving orders. "All those pretty formations? Forget them," Martinez said. "We're gonna fight in clusters, small groups that can adapt quickly. The Void Collective moves like a swarm, so we're gonna fight like wolves." He pulled up tactical maps. "Council ships will be bait. Human ships will be the trap. We're gonna make them think they're winning, then we're gonna close the jaws." A council admiral raised his hand nervously. "But sir, using ships as bait means some will be destroyed. That's an acceptable casualty rate of 40%, Martinez said. "Maybe higher. Yes, people will die. That's what war means." The room fell silent. The council wasn't used to commanders who talked about acceptable casualties. Sarah took over the ground defense planning. She gathered the council officers she'd trained and explained the new strategy. "Primacy is a city planet," Sarah said. "Billions of buildings, millions of places to hide. We're going to use that. Forget fighting in open fields. We're going to make every street a nightmare for them." She showed them the plans. Booby traps in buildings, ambush points at every corner, false retreats to draw the enemy into kill zones, guerrilla warfare on a planetary scale. "This is cowardly," one officer protested. "Real warriors fight in the open." "Real warriors survive," Sarah replied. "Dead warriors are just meat." Trelvox stood beside her. "She's right. I've studied the human method. It's effective because it's unpredictable. The enemy can't plan for chaos." The 12 hours passed too quickly. Sensors detected the Void Collective approaching. Thousands of ships moving as one. A black tide, coming to consume another world. Admiral Martinez stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Necessary Evil. Sarah had to smile at the name. It was very human. "All forces, this is Martinez," the Admiral said calmly. "Remember, they're expecting us to fight like the Council. Rigid formations, predictable tactics, honor-bound stupidity. So we're going to confuse them. Council ships, move into your formations." The Council fleet moved into perfect attack formations, exactly as they always did. "Good," Martinez said. "Now break formation and scatter. Make it look panicked." The Council ships broke apart, fleeing in different directions. To the Void Collective, it must have looked like a collapse. An easy victory. The enemy swarm rushed forward, eager to consume the fleeing ships. "Human fleet, spring the trap," Martinez ordered. The human ships appeared from behind Primacy's moons, from asteroid fields, from behind debris. They'd been hiding, something the Council would never do. They opened fire on the Void Collective's rear. At the same moment, the Council ships stopped fleeing and turned around. The enemy was caught between two forces. But the Void Collective was smart. They adapted. They split their forces, trying to fight both threats at once. "Phase 2, Martinez said. "Release the virus." Sarah had helped design the virus. It was a piece of code that attacked the hive-mind connection. The Void Collective shared one consciousness across all their ships. That was their strength, but it was also their weakness. Human hackers had captured a Void ship weeks earlier. They'd studied it, learned how the hive mind worked. Then they'd built a virus that would spread through the connection, causing confusion and pain. The captured Void ship, filled with the virus, was released into the enemy fleet. It connected to the hive mind, and the virus spread like wildfire. Void ships began acting strangely. Some fired on each other. Others stopped moving completely. The perfect coordination broke down into chaos. "That's cheating," the Strategos commander said, but he sounded impressed rather than angry. "That's winning," Martinez replied. "Finish them." The combined fleet tore into the confused enemy. For the first time, the Council was winning a battle against the Void Collective. But the enemy wasn't done. The hive mind was learning. They began purging infected ships, cutting them off from the connection. The virus was losing effectiveness. "They're adapting," Sarah said. "We need something else." Martinez smiled. "Lieutenant, activate the drones." Thousands of small drones launched from human ships. They looked like Void technology because they were made from captured Void ships. They moved like Void ships. The enemy thought they were reinforcements. The drones flew into the middle of the Void fleet. Then they exploded. Each one was filled with antimatter. The explosions tore through the enemy formation. Hundreds of ships destroyed in seconds. "That's a war crime under Council law," someone whispered. "Good thing we're human then," Martinez said. On the ground, the Void Collective landed troops. They poured into Primacy cities like locusts. This was where they usually won. Ground forces meant they could start consuming people directly, adding them to the hive mind. Sarah led the defense from a command center deep underground. She watched as the enemy spread through the streets. Springtrap Alpha. Throughout the city, buildings exploded. The Void troops had walked into structures filled with explosives. Entire city blocks collapsed, burying thousands of enemy soldiers. "Trap Beta," Sarah ordered. Underground tunnels opened. Council forces poured out, attacking from below. The Void Collective had expected attacks from the front. They hadn't expected attacks from beneath their feet. Trap Gamma. False retreats drew enemy forces into narrow streets. Then buildings on both sides collapsed, crushing them. Or fire rained down from above. Or the ground gave way into hidden pits. Every street was a trap. Every building was a weapon. The Void Collective was learning that fighting humans on their terms was a nightmare. A council officer watched the tactical display with wide eyes. "We're killing them so efficiently. How did we never think of this?" "Because you cared more about honor than survival. We can't afford that luxury." The battle lasted 3 days. 3 days of constant fighting. 3 days of traps and tricks and terrible weapons. 3 days of doing whatever it took to win. When it was over, the Void Collective retreated. For the first time ever, they retreated. Admiral Martinez stood on the bridge, watching the enemy flee. "Chase them down. Don't let them regroup." "Sir, they're retreating," a council officer said. "Honor demands we let them go." Martinez turned to look at the officer. "Honor won't bring back the 40 billion people they ate. Chase them down and kill them. All of them." Sarah watched as the combined fleet pursued the enemy. This was human warfare. No mercy, no honor, just survival. The Council had asked for humanity's help. Now they were learning what that really meant. And in the back of her mind, Sarah wondered if they would ever forgive humanity for saving them. 6 months after the Battle of Primacy, Sarah stood before the full Galactic Council once more. The war was over. The Void Collective had been driven back to their home system and trapped there by a human-designed quarantine network. The galaxy was safe. But the council chamber felt different now, colder, more tense. The High Chancellor spoke first. "Captain Chen, the council has assembled to discuss the Combat Exclusion Treaty, specifically, whether it should be reinstated." Sarah had expected this. She looked around the chamber at 847 species. Some looked grateful, others looked disgusted, most looked conflicted. "The human method of warfare proved effective," the High Chancellor continued. "But at what cost? We saved lives by taking lives. We won by abandoning everything we believed about civilized combat." A delegate from the Proving World stood up. The humans used weapons we had banned for 10,000 years. They targeted the enemy without mercy. They turned our cities into death traps. Is this what we want to become? Another delegate rose. They saved us. 40 billion were dead before humans arrived. 0 have died since, in void collective attacks. The terrible weapons humans had used. Yes, we're dangerous, Sarah said. Yes, we fight dirty. Yes, we do things that make you uncomfortable. We lie. We cheat. We use every advantage we can find. We build weapons that break your rules and violate your sense of honor. She changed the image to show Earth, the small blue planet humans called home. Want to know why? Sarah asked. Because Earth made us this way. Our planet tried to kill us every single day. Predators, diseases, weather, other humans. Everything on Earth was trying to survive, and survival meant being harder than everything else. She showed images of human history, wars, famines, struggles. We didn't get 10,000 years of peace like you did, Sarah said. We didn't have time to develop honor codes and rules of war. We were too busy trying not to go extinct. So we learned to do whatever it took to survive. The chamber was silent. You call us monsters because we're willing to do what you won't, Sarah continued. But we didn't create the universe. We just learned to survive in it. And when you were facing extinction, you called us. Because deep down, you knew that sometimes survival requires monsters. She changed the image to show the Council's military before the war. Perfect formations, ceremonial armor, beautiful ships. Your civilization spent 10,000 years playing at war like it was a sport, Sarah said. You made it safe. You made it predictable. You made it honorable. And that's beautiful. That's what civilization should be. But it only works when everyone follows the same rules. Now the image showed the Void Collective, the hive mind that consumed worlds. They didn't follow your rules, Sarah said. And if we'd followed your rules, you'd all be dead right now. Trelvox stood up. So what do? We cannot become like humans, but we cannot ignore what humans know. Sarah nodded. You don't have to become us. You shouldn't become us. What you should do is remember that we exist. Remember that when the universe shows its teeth, when something comes that doesn't care about your rules, you have an option. We become your guard dog, the Strategos commander said. He'd been quiet until now. Kept chained until needed. Yes, Sarah said simply. Ban us from your wars. We don't want to fight in your territorial disputes, or your honor duels. Those are your business. But when something comes that threatens everyone, when extinction is on the line, let us off the chain. The High Chancellor leaned forward. And if we abuse this, if we call you for wars that aren't truly existential, then we don't come, Sarah said. We're not your attack dog to be pointed at whoever you don't like. We're the last resort, the nuclear option, the thing you call when everything else has failed. The debate continued for another day. Finally, a vote was called. The result was unanimous. The Sentinel Doctrine was created. Humans would be permanently banned from internal galactic conflicts. They could not serve as mercenaries. They could not take sides in council disputes. They could not participate in any war between member species. But when an existential threat appeared, something that could destroy the council itself, humans would be called. They would fight without restrictions. They would do what needed to be done. The High Chancellor approached Sarah after the vote. We have given you a terrible responsibility. We've always had it, Sarah replied. Now you've just made it official. Some of the council will always hate you, the High Chancellor said. They saw what you did. They can't forget it. I know, Sarah said. We saved them, and they'll resent us for it. That's fine. We're not doing this to be liked. Why are you doing it? The High Chancellor asked. Sarah thought about her grandfather's photograph, about Earth, about humanity's long, hard climb from the caves to the stars. Because someone has to, she said. Because when the universe gets scary, somebody needs to be scarier. That's us. That's always been us. A week later, Sarah returned to the Harmonious Destiny. Her title was changed from Liaison Officer to Sentinel Commander. She would monitor threats and advise when human intervention was needed. Admiral Martinez visited her before leaving with the human fleet. Think they learned their lesson? Some did, Sarah said. Others will need more convincing. There's always another threat, Martinez said. How long do you think we have? As if answering his question, an alert chimed on Sarah's console. Priority signal from deep space monitoring stations. She opened the file. Her stomach dropped. 3 unknown species had been detected, all showing aggressive expansion patterns, all in different parts of the galaxy, all potentially as dangerous as the Void Collective. Sarah forwarded the information to Martinez. Does that answer your question? Martinez read the report and smiled grimly. Tell the council to get ready. Looks like the galaxy is going to need its monsters again. I'll let them know, Sarah said. Think they'll appreciate us more the second time? Probably not, Martinez said, but they'll call us anyway. They always do. After Martinez left, Sarah stood alone in her quarters. She looked at Earth through the window, the little blue planet that had created humanity, the planet that had made them hard enough to survive anything. She opened a communication channel to Human Command. This is Sentinel Commander Chen. We have new threats emerging. Begin preparations. The response came back immediately. Understood. Terra Defense Force is ready. We always are. Sarah smiled. That was humanity in 4 words. We always are. The Council had banned humans from combat for the galaxy's own safety. They'd been right to do it. Humans were dangerous. Humans were scary. Humans fought like nothing else in the galaxy. But sometimes, the galaxy needed dangerous. Sometimes, the galaxy needed scary. Sometimes, the only thing that could save civilization was the willingness to do uncivilized things. Sarah looked at the star map showing the new threats. 3 potential wars. 3 chances for humanity to remind the galaxy why they were kept chained. She sent one more message to Martinez. How do we prepare for 3 simultaneous threats? His response made her laugh. The same way we prepare for everything. We get ready to win, no matter what it takes. That was humanity. No honor, no mercy, no rules, just survival. And for a galaxy full of species that had forgotten how to really fight, that made humans both the most dangerous thing in the universe and the only thing standing between civilization and extinction. Sarah pulled up the Sentinel Doctrine on her screen, the document that officially made humans the galaxy's guard dog, the document that said humans would only fight when everything was on the line. At the bottom was a quote the Council had added. Sarah read it and felt a mix of pride and sadness. Let the humans remain banned from our wars, for they are too good at winning them. But let them never be forgotten, for one day we may need them to win for us. Sarah turned off the screen and looked at Earth one more time. We'll be ready, she said quietly to the empty room. We're always ready. Because that's what monsters do. They wait in the dark. They stay chained. And when the galaxy needs them, when civilization itself hangs in the balance, they do what they were made to do. They survive, and they make sure everyone else survives too.